Good morning, everyone. This is the Doctor. It's 11:58 a.m. here in the Pacific Northwest on April 26th. It's a beautiful sunny morning outside, and I got Cocoa Puff here in my lap. And we are about to go into the Gilgamesh review video. So, for those of you that don't know, we do regular character profiles on this stream. And usually what we do is we break down the unit, go over the stats, and then talk about what's relevant and what might be the best way to build your unit. This was a request down in my comment section, so if you want to see more videos like this, make sure you leave a comment down there and I'll be sure to see it and do my best to get you guys what you are after. Before I begin, I do need to do a shout out to Ergo, Cloud, Severo, and Lucas from my Discord. There is a lot of misinformation out there on Gilgamesh, and so what those guys did is we sat down in the Discord and they sent me a copy of every single one of Gilgamesh's abilities, since he is a unit I do not own, so that we can see the actual text in global instead of just trying to translate the Ultima translations, which are actually wrong, and looking at the global wiki. So first, let's take a look at Gilgamesh. He's a winged one, a time mage, and a soldier. He does have the TMR Sworn's Helm, which is HP 382, Defense 8, and Spirit 8. It also gives the ability to increase his own magic significantly, which according to the Final Fantasy Calculations website is 250%. So that is a pretty substantial amount. His master ability down here is from Ultima, and the interesting thing about Gilgamesh is in JP he actually has two master abilities. So his first master ability that we can acquire here in Global is Quickness plus 10% and Slash Attack plus 10. And then in JP, they actually unleashed a second master ability for HP plus 1000 and Accuracy plus 15, which is pretty cool that they're doing kind of what they did in Brave Exvius, where they released secondary master abilities to either try and buff units, I'm guessing, or just the fact that Gilgamesh is the poster child, they wanted to make sure he was good. In terms of his base stats, his HP is relatively low. His AP is very high. He does suffer from a low movement, but he has a lot of abilities to make up for that, so I'm not going to see that as a minus right now. His attack is 17th, it's not the highest. His magic is 10th at 196th. His agility is 56, but he does get plus 4, putting him at 60, which makes him pretty modest, and you have to also understand he's getting that plus 10% agility from his Trust Master. So his total agility is going to be about 66 once he's maxed out. He has a dexterity of 48 and a luck of 60, I believe, if I can read correctly. Some callouts here, he does get HP plus 15% to help him with that lower than normal HP. He gets a critical hit rate of plus 14, luck plus 42, dex plus 31, and he does get an attack of 57 and a magic power of 23. I think overall, his HP is the thing that needs buffing the most, and I think whenever we do get his second master ability, that HP plus 1000 is actually going to be making a huge difference for him. Now, going over his abilities here, this is going to be mostly for his physical build. So he has essentially two separate builds, right? He has a physical build and he has a magical build. And the magical build is going to be a lot harder to build for. I think most people you're going to encounter are going to be using him for his physical build. So let's talk about some of his passives right here. He does have raised acquired AP up, so that actually gives him plus 50% of AP acquired when it's fully maxed out. Speedcast is going to reduce the activation time of spells and abilities. So if you are looking at doing something like Self-Haste, for example, this will actually help him with casting Self-Haste. This will help him if he's set with a Time Mage subjob. And then, of course, we have the Self-Sacrifice ability from the Soldier sub, which is an all attack resistances minus 8% once it's fully maxed out, and an attack plus 60%, which is very powerful, and you're probably going to be wanting to set that if you're an offensive build for Gilgamesh. Now, when we talked about his movement being something that hindered him earlier, we talked about him having abilities that could close that gap, and one of those abilities, you've probably died to it in PvP, is called Excalibur. Now, it is a large damage attack that moves the unit to the square and attacks another unit. And this move is crazy powerful. I mean, this is going to just knock out your units. It's only AP 24 for a large movement attack. That is nuts. Now, he also gets an incredible counter called Clairvoyant Blade. So if someone is within melee range of Gilgamesh and they attack him, he has a chance to attack first before your character lands the attack and kill you before you even get an attack off. So for your counter, of course, Clairvoyant Blade is going to be the technique that you're going to want to set. He also gets a self-haste in his kit. And if you notice the cast speed is at 254, that means that it's going to take only about 3 cycles to cast, which is good. It only costs TP 16, so you're going to be able to have enough to cast that all the time. If you are setting his sub-job as Winged One, he is also going to have access to Healing Aura, which heals a sizable chunk of HP with him and his allies around him. If you are unable to use Excalibur for some reason, but you still need to be able to hit a target behind a pillar or something like that, you also get the ability Kotetsu here. Now, Kotetsu lowers the slash resistance of the targets that it hits. But if you look at it, it's a 3x3 square attack, essentially, in a diamond pattern. And the strength of Kotetsu is nuts, right? Like, if you think about the horizontal axis of Kotetsu is 5 squares long, how often there are units that are within 5 squares of each other with a potential to have Kotetsu hit multiple of them. This is like an AoE shuriken attack, 3 squares in front of Gilgamesh, that has up to 5 range. So it's pretty nuts. I think it definitely shows why Gilgamesh is one of the strongest physically built characters in the game. Now, his other build is a little bit more complex, and it's focused around magic. And even then, it has some different icons on it, which makes it a little bit confusing. And there's also some misinformation out there on all of the wikis. So what we did was we just pulled the tooltips, because the tooltips are what's going to tell us what's right here. So for Frostblade, it deals ice damage medium to targets within range based on caster's magic stat. And you can see it is a 3 square attack, and it does have a 5... sorry guys, I just wake up. It has a 5 square gap in a cross pattern from wherever it lands. So it is similar to Kotetsu, and it's kind of like the Kotetsu that's a little bit more flexible, right? Like, it does have more space where you can adjust it, instead of where Kotetsu is just on the north, south, east, and west. This is going to be in a complete area around him. And then he also has Hammon, which deals medium damage to the target based on the caster's magic stat and lowers the enemy's attack. And that's going to be within 3 ranges of Gilgamesh. And notice that the AP for casting these are 16 and 15, so they're substantially lower. So I do think that if you're going to be building Gilgamesh for magic, you really have to know what you're doing, because it's much more complex. It's definitely still viable and arguably more powerful. You're going to be needing to look towards ice modifiers and magic modifiers. You're probably going to be setting your sub job as Time Mage. And talking about his different subs, Time Mage sub does give access to haste, slow, and quick. So it's possible to be viable, but the AI, at least until we don't have the abilities update, will use Comet consistently. That has been what I've heard, and I've heard that you want to stay away from the Time Mage sub for auto battles. Soldier sub honestly offers less than the Winged One sub, and you're probably going to want to stay on the Winged One sub job just to get all of those self buffs that Gilgamesh has access to. Now, in terms of buffs, Gilgamesh has a 5% resistance to slashing and piercing. He's weak to fist attacks, and he has a 5% resistance to missile and magic. He has a 10% weakness to fire, and he has a 20% resistance to wind. He actually has a 50% resistance to death, and a 50% resistance, I believe that's to stop. Now, some of the espers that I'm recommending here are going to be Ifrit, of course, for his attack and PvP viability. Boost more of that ice resistance, make you more resistant to those Medinas and those missile attack users. It's going to be Shiva, because Shiva is going to offer that magic potential. And honestly, Shiva and Siren in here are probably only going to be used for your magic builds, and arguably you may want to use Odin still over that. Behemoth, of course, is the go-to solid base agility, solid slash attack, solid attack. Behemoth is that rock star that is just always consistently giving that I would always recommend. Odin, of course, with his Man-Eater, is going to be fantastic when he comes to global in the next couple of weeks. And Siren, both for her agility and her magic, the capability to be a little bit flexible here is something that Gilgamesh is actually very capable of doing. You can almost think of Gilgamesh like a red mage in a very weird way. All right, now looking at the cards, we of course would recommend the Moraga card, right, with that powerful slash attack plus bonus. We have the House of Beowulf, which is going to give that strong agility and that potent plus slash attack bonus for the individual. The Odin card that comes out when it comes out with Man-Eater. Now, Oath of Love is something that I think might actually be sleeper powerful on Gilgamesh. And the reason why is Gilgamesh has such range utility. If you're at all able to trick the AI into coming towards him, he's either going to be able to mash out one of those AoE attacks, or he's going to be able to lure them into his attack range. I think it might even be viable to do a low agility build with him and set Oath of Love, let someone else move first, and then lure them into Gilgamesh's attack range. I think what also might be viable is maybe having him use self-haste on himself with a high agility build, and then have them move, and then have him act on them as they've moved in. Of course, if you don't have Moraga, we're always going to recommend Secret Orders with the agility plus. And then, in terms of magic build, Wedding Vows, of course, the strongest magic card you could potentially put on anyone in your party. You have the Shiva card as well for that high magic evasion, or sorry, that high magic and that evasion. And then the Rama card I put in because that thunder resistance is going to be really important in this meta where there's going to be lots of Orlandus right now, lots of Fredericas. You're going to consistently see a ton of those in PvP. Anything with thunder resistance is going to help right now. Not to mention Rama also gives magic plus for the party, which if you are going for a magic build could be very powerful. Finally, just a reminder here, if you're using Gilgamesh out there, you should be using Ice Brand. Fully maxed out, the Ice Brand does have a modifier plus 30 to your ice magic, or your ice element attack. I really want to say ice magic attack, but I need to make sure I'm making sure to make the distinction between elements and magic is the most important thing here. So make sure you are setting that Ice Brand, maxing it out, and focusing it as much as powerful. Every time you +1 it, +2 it, you are literally going to be raising your street damage from Gilgamesh for almost all of his attacks. Alright, you guys, that's it for our review of Gilgamesh today. I hope you guys found this useful, and I hope you guys all have a great rest of your Sunday. I know I'm going to, and look forward to our first Digs cast later on tonight. Thank you so much, you guys, and talk to you later.